Hey everyone, welcome.
Hey, Corbin.
Hey, Corbin.
Good to see everybody.
Dottie Bosley, welcome.
Funny how some people it takes longer to connect than others. Is
I
that
know you see their
what?
name way before their face.
I know. Hey, Amy.
How's
Amy.
everyone doing today?
Amy's muted but has new hair.
Hello.
We're-
Hey.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, we're encouraging everybody to speak up this session. We're gonna have a lot of great helpful hacks.
yeah, we're so glad everybody is able to join us today on this little webinar we like to call
so
Virtual Brunch with Actual Nerds. My name is Leighton Rasco. I am a nerd, and I will be moderating our discussion today. Today, we're going to be talking all about hacks, and specifically our favorite ones that apply to virtual meetings, virtual event production, graphic design, home officing, and some general life hacks that we'll get started with in a few minutes. Before we introduce the rest of our nerds today, I'd like to give a little extra time for people to join us while I go through some housekeeping notes. So, first of all, please update your Zoom name to reflect your full name and company. That helps us, know who is here and who's not. You will come in on mute. We ask that you stay on mute when you're not talking. However, we do encourage discussion. So, we ask you to unmute yourself while you're talking, or else we can't hear you. This is an Ask Me Anything style webinar, which means it's an open discussion and we encourage further discussion. We'll be monitoring the chat as well as looking for virtual hand raises. To raise your hand, look at the reaction tab at the bottom of your screen. If you want to just unmute yourself and blurt out a question or comment, we'll probably forgive you for that. We'll give you some helpful hacks to blur out more stuff and raise your hand in a few minutes. One best practice we like to employ for this type of webinar is a virtual bouncer. This is someone different than the moderator speaker, someone who handles the dirty work of the back end to mute people and post polls and such. Today, our virtual bouncer is Jennifer Rasco Smith. Hey, Jennifer.
Hey, everybody. It's good to see you.
So did anybody cause any trouble for you today at the door?
There's always one fella that gives me trouble. His name's John Harris. Yeah, but I don't even see him this time, so it's good to pick on him. No, we're doing great.
Yeah. Well, make sure you stay on top of things. Yeah. We do have an archive of all of our past events. If you go to attendingnet.com/archive, you can view all of our webinars from the past. And it's really too bad that you can't view future webinars in that archive because our next virtual brunch with actual nerds is going to be on June 25th, which is 2 weeks from now. And it is going to be killer. We have an industry icon. We have the one and only Mike Dominguez joining us. That's right, the Mike Dominguez, President and CEO of Associated Luxury Hotels International. Sorry, I messed up his title, but
and he's standing there right with you.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. He's great. If anybody's seen him talk before, it might be the greatest webcast that has ever been webcasted. So,
Well, that's until we get Corbin Ball in as the special guest nerd.
All right, now let's get on with the introduction and some hacks. So to get us started, we're going to start off easy before we get into the more technical stuff. We're just going to ask our panelists to go around, introduce themselves, and give us one common life hack that they use every day. So to get us started, let's go to Jeff.
Oh, sweet. I was unmuted anyway. Okay, so my life hack is my kids. So it's sort of like a Moore's law kind of thing. Is that as I've slowed down, technology has speeded up, and it's just hard to keep up. But it's like having kids around and just basically a younger generation around. I learn about things like that I thought were stupid really aren't so stupid, like taking pictures with your phone or having an Apple Watch or whatever. So thanks, kids, for keeping me somewhat current.
That is good news that having smarter kids than yourself is a hack, because my kids are brilliant. Jill, what do you got?
I would agree. You have brilliant kids. I have a pretty brilliant kid too, but he's not here, so I don't learn anything from him that way. My hack that I've been using lately, which isn't all that wonderful, but it's fast, is I have a spray bottle of 70% alcohol, and I spray my mask instead of washing it. I just spritz it and
That's
let
a
it.
good one.
That is relevant too.
That's
Timely. Christina, what you got for us?
I am going to go with a busy working mom angle and say that as one, meal times can be rather complicated. And to add to that, I'm a little bit of a food snob. So I don't pull stuff out of like the freezer or a box very often. So I'm going to say meal planning and the Instant Pot have been a couple of hacks that have really helped me. I don't know if Instant Pot's a hack. Figuring out the Instant Pot, that's the hack. But well worth it what you do.
Great, thanks everyone. Did I miss anybody? No.
Jennifer.
Jennifer, did you?
Me? Boy, I'm the bouncer. I'm gonna have to get rid of you. No, my hack, and you can't Google it because it's my hack. I put my keys in the refrigerator. So when I have leftovers, I don't forget to take them home from the office. Works like a charm.
Huh. And then you have cold keys.
I do.
Which is probably good for something. We don't know what. But once
Cools
we
me off
find
when
out,
I'm
it'll be a good hack.
Yeah, it cools me off while I'm walking home.
I put my keys in the refrigerator, but it's just a sign of early dementia.
Okay. So let's go ahead and move on to some Zoom hacks. These are things that you can do just for virtual meetings like this one. This, fairly small group of our friends, but we still have some great things that we can do in Zoom. I'm sure you guys saw my thing here, the Prezi video. This is a free application that to get rid of this little Prezi video thing you can pay for, but since we are promoting this, I figured why not leave it up. It's a really cool way just to, when you're giving a PowerPoint presentation, you're in person and you're pointing to things on a screen beside you, but they have made this that it really just kind of integrates with Zoom, Google, GoToMeeting. I mean, you name the platform, and I think they have an application for it. So it's a pretty cool little thing, free and easy to use. Not a whole lot of flexibility from what I saw, but I like it.
And what I like about it is it sort of gives you that background. It sort of gives you the background that people like or that use a lot in Zoom. Gives you sort of that approach without the funny little trails.
Yeah, it's not a background. It's more of a foreground, which is nice. Yeah. I mean, my background is still awful because I tried like 3 different ones today, and I just can't get away from my daughter's bedroom because it works the best. We also have some little shortcut hotkey type Zoom hacks. Jennifer, you're the one who came up with these and found them. Do you want to?
Well, and Bragan put a document in the chat. If anybody
I'm sorry,
hasn't seen it, we're going to keep a list as we go through things that we can then send out to everybody.
Yeah, the first hack is, I know we all love to use that space bar to mute ourselves during a Zoom call.
If you know
And
about it.
yeah, well, we've talked about it before, but they have a whole list of them, and I've added that link to the document so that everybody has that available, all sorts of shortcuts and hotkeys you can use. So it saves time, which we all need a little bit more of. So
Yeah, so if you want to just blurt out a question or comment, if you just hit that space bar, you can start yelling and we will all hear you. Another cool one that I saw when I was browsing through that list is to raise your hand if you're on a Mac. If you hit Option Y, if you're on a PC, you hit Alt Y. That raises your hand without going to the reaction tab at the bottom. So that's, nice, easy little shortcut.
yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Jill, do you want to talk about the Google Calendar integration?
I gotta first remember what I was thinking about that.
That you integrate Google Calendar and it's great.
Oh, one thing I was putting in, and it's called takeout.google.com, which allows you to download all kinds of anything you've got in your Google account. Like for me, I've got photos that I back up to Google. And when you think about it, that's not really a backup if that's the only place you've got your photos. And so you can schedule it to do a download of any particular folders. Don't do them all because it'll take forever. But like I did just my photos folder, and then it's going to back itself up and send me the files every 2 weeks automatically. It's cool.
That's great. Brenda, you have your hand up. Would you like to hit that space bar? You're still muted.
So you're muted, Brenda, if you wanted to say something.
No, I was just testing out the little space bar. Thanks, bye. I'll be muting myself.
So it works.
Good job. The Google Calendar link, I think what we were talking about with that is the extension, at least in Chrome, where you can link your Zoom account to your calendar. And so when you create a calendar entry, it gives you the option to make it a Zoom meeting. And so it automatically populates the calendar invitation with all the Zoom login information, including the phone numbers.
Yeah.
But here's a hack on that hack. If you are a Google Calendar user, Google also wants to automatically insert Google Meet. So definitely pay attention to if you have Zoom and Google Meet and remove one that you don't have. That's happened to me multiple times. The Zoom feature is great, but especially when you're a Google user, Google wants to compete.
Right. That is, it's kind of confusing if you don't be cognitive of that.
I have another Google calendar app, calendar hack, which I just learned about the other week on another nerd call, was woven.com, which is something that you could send a link out to your friends, family, clients, and they can see your open spaces on your calendar, and you can set up like templates so that you can invite people to an hour meeting or a half-hour meeting or a 2-hour meeting. So it's perpetual. In other words, you could use that link over and over again, and whoever you send it to can see every open hour slot that you want them to see on your calendar. When they click on it, it gets added to your calendar, gets added to their calendar. You get a notice. It's rather cool.
Nice. So we're going to move on to like lighting and production type hacks, unless anybody has any cool Zoom hacks that you want to raise your hand and speak up. All right. So, just as far as like basic, I don't want to look like I woke up and figured out how to turn my computer on yesterday kind of Zoom hacks. My favorite thing is just to put your computer up about 3-4 inches off the desk so that you're not looking up your nose. Today I'm using Stratego, which is the original game of Battlefield strategy, to elevate my camera.
I've got an Amazon box.
And someone asked in the registration process, any good lighting hacks? I mean, my best suggestion is just to try it. I mean, you can open your camera. I went in the kitchen today. I was hoping to have a nice wooded background behind me through my kitchen window, but the backlight was too much, even though I turned on every single light in the kitchen. I brought in a lamp, didn't work. I mean, that's honestly the best hack, is just to try it, add lamps.
Also, if you don't know, at least PC users, Jeff's got a lamp. PC users, you can turn on your camera by just typing the word camera into the search box. So you can see how you look.
That's cool.
Yeah. I actually use it a lot.
Jill, you have a pretty good little hack here in the in our notes, Doc. Do you want to talk about how you tape things to your lamps?
Jennifer actually taped, I have a different studio in my office. Right now I'm in the home office, living room. But in my office, I set up a studio with a plastic tub to set my laptop on, and I've got a lamp that's real tall so that it's coming down from above, but it was real harsh. So we taped a piece of paper over the front of the lamp to tone it down a little bit, so it's not quite so harsh. I also bought a little click-on, it's called a Loom Cube, that clicks onto your iPhone, or in my case, your Android phone, or your laptop. It's just kind of got a suction cup kind of clip on. So in worst case, like right now I have a window, but in other times I can just use that little lamp. It didn't cost very much. It was under $50, I'm sure.
Jill, I know you just went on mute, but you've got the next one on there too, and it's about green screen best practices. If you have a green screen, which few of us do at our houses.
We're all learning about that little weird trail if you're using a fake background. That little weird trail is not nearly so bad if you have a green screen behind you. But you also need to be aware of the color of your green screen and the color of your clothing, or the color of your prominent tattoos. There was a guy with a green screen that had very green tattoos, and it just looked really weird. So just be aware of your color. You can change and match the color of your green screen, but
yeah, aren't there some applications that you mentioned yesterday about that? Or no, is that something else?
green. Oh, the mini cam.
Yeah.
There's a product.
Mini cam. It's like
M-A-N-Y.
it's like a bunch of cams.
Lots of cams.
Many. Not many as in small, but as in many as in
lots of.
Yeah.
Mini cam is really cool because you can, if you have a screen green, you can set up different backgrounds, and you can impose or superimpose pictures on top of it and resize them so that you could make it makes for a more interesting video presentation. So like Layton's with the Prezi is in front of you. The mini cam has backgrounds, and the images are placed wherever you put them on your own screen, but then you save that look so you can instantly switch back and forth. Like for a teacher, they could use it for a different slide each time, or bring in, like in this case, they brought in some dinosaurs, Christina, so I thought you needed it. Christina's child is a big dinosaur fan.
He's 4 and knows like every dinosaur out there.
Yeah, we needed his help yesterday. We started watching Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, and we needed some help identifying dinosaurs. We needed some Charlie. Jeff, you've got some notes on there about some AV aids. You're still on mute.
What
I
you
was
doing?
holding down,
Trying.
I was holding down the space key, but my cursor was on the other screen. So one hack is know where your cursor is. So anyway, a couple of them were just like, it does sort of, I always think about the TV studio or movie studio that, you know, basically that's what we're doing now. We're on TV, and it is a whole new way of doing things. So it's so much of it is appearance. So as you know, Zoom has built in a filter that essentially takes your, you know, HD camera and puts Vaseline on it like the old days. So there's a built-in Zoom filter that sort of mutes you down and sort of takes some of the wrinkles and harshness off, so you can, you know, decide whether to use that or not. I started using the AirPods as my speaker, just because it eliminates a lot of the feedback and things. So that works pretty well. The microphone works really pretty well on them as well. But I know that Jill and I both have the snowballs. These are blue, happens to be blue branded snowballs for the microphones, and it just gives a better tone, a better sound. And a lot of video today is sort of shaky. I mean, it's okay. You know, you sort of expect sort of that phone camera movement in a video as you're going, but sound makes all the difference. I mean, you can have a little shake in the camera these days, but if the sound's crackly and bad, then it just doesn't work. So take heed of, you know, how you look, how that lighting is, where it's coming from, you know, what's in your background. Mine's not great. But also just sort of that look and feel, so that you just are making a great impression on the people who are watching you on your video.
Yeah, and I think that applies to everyday meetings as much as something like this that we're trying to produce for people outside of our organization, because, you know, you don't show up at work pre-COVID wearing sweats. You know, you still want to look your best, and this is kind of the equivalent of that. So we're going to move on, unless anybody has some other kind of production hacks that they want to contribute. We're going to move on to like graphic design, and all of a sudden, you know, we find ourselves, everything's online, everything's virtual. So we need it to look a little bit better than when before you could yell to the guy next, you know, in the office 2 doors down that is a little more handy with the PowerPoint. You know, we're all kind of responsible for that now. So I think it, you know, no hands. I'm not seeing any hands. Okay, we'll move on. Oh, Jeff.
No,
We'll
it's
move
just
on.
being a demo.
What's that?
was just demoing how you can also raise your hand this way.
Oh, a real flesh hand. It's weird. All right. So moving on to graphic design, that we have, I mean, we've been doing this for years and years and years. So we've got a ton of resources here. Unfortunately, my name is beside the first two, so I guess I'll start talking. My favorite thing ever is Canva. Canva.com. Canva.com. It is kind of like I guess, Adobe Illustrator, just like super easy to use online. There's free versions. I have a paid version because there's a few features that I use that I like to pay for it. They actually recently merged with Pexels, which is an online free stock photo app. So there's tons of free and paid photos, tons of icons. It's
Zoom
really
background?
easy. What's that?
They have Zoom backgrounds.
Yes.
Well, and they have templates galore. It also can size, like if you need to get all the Facebook sizes set up, it'll help you do that. I mean, it's a great program.
You just start with the template you need, the size you need. You can just go in there and say, I want to make an Instagram post. You go in there, you start with that, you add a background, every font you can imagine. It's one of my favorite all-time softwares. The other one I use a lot is called Ribbit. It's Ribbet. They do have a browser-based version. I use the desktop version because their browser-based version is, I think it's still Flash, which is not great. That's more like a Photoshop. If you're familiar with the difference between Illustrator and Photoshop for Adobe, it's more like, I'm going to resize this photo. I'm going to touch it up a little bit. There's not as much graphic design elements that you can do. But I use that one daily as well. Jill had a nice one called remove.bg.
Yeah, and I have only played with it a little bit, but you can for free upload a photo into remove.bg, and it will pretty cleanly strip out the background if you needed to have a picture, and just lose everything that's behind you. So I had a picture that had a real leafy bush behind me, and it stripped it all out, and there were samples of people with hair that had, like air in the hair, more curls, and it stripped the background out of the hair too. So, I mean, it didn't look terrible when it was done. And a lot of background removers I've seen in the past were not clean. So that one, I was real surprised with how good it was.
Thanks. Jeff, why do you like Snagit so much?
I love Snagit.
Let me unmute and I'll tell you.
Here's another quick little hack. If you just hit the unmute button, you stay unmuted. You don't have to hold the space bar down the whole time.
Can you come over and hold the space bar down for me? That would be so good if you could do that. So Snagit is, again, just a free or freemium thing, and it just lets you capture stuff. I was using it just yesterday. Our MPI incoming board needed to do a group shot. Yay, John and Brenda. Who else is there? But yeah, we needed to do a group shot, and that's a little tougher these days with COVID. Plus, the pictures of us all in masks looks pretty weird. So we just set up a Zoom meeting and had everybody come into it. And so we're all looking in gallery view. We've got a big smile on our faces, and you just hit the capture button on Snagit, and then you can capture the screen. I had another instance where the other day I was trying to get a screenshot of a long Facebook post, and so you can do a scrolling capture and capture everything. For you just scroll and it just sort of saves it all very quickly and easily. Websites, web pages, audio, video. You can do a video. We've done that several times where, for training purposes, you just run the Snagit video capture and sort of do a little Google training or something and hit save, and then you've got that recording as an MP4 that you can post real quickly. You can use it. I think at a lower level on some of the stuff that Leighton was talking about for like Canva and Ribbit in sort of graphic design. So you can take a photo and retouch it, or you can, add blocks of color, change the background, resize images. And for, like the paid version is just like $50. But I use Snagit.
And that's not a monthly subscription. That's
annual.
subscribe until they find a way to make you upgrade.
Yeah, and I use Snagit almost every day, and I know Jill's a big user too.
Yeah, I actually use a Chrome plugin called Awesome Screenshot, which is not as good as Snagit, but with the other tools, I don't feel the need for Snagit. It does the scroll-in screenshots and the delayed screenshots, and I believe it does the video recording of your screen as well. I forgot about that one until just now, so I didn't do enough research on its features to go into much detail. But
well, I know that I'd learned that I didn't like the screen capture that came with the computer, that it was like clunky. And so this, Snagit was a major upgrade to that. But and there are a lot of others.
Yeah, the limiting thing about the Awesome Screenshot is that it is a Chrome extension, so it only screenshots the things that are in your browser. So I still have to use the computer. I have a Mac, so I think it's like Screen Grab or Screenshot is the name of the application. It's all right. But thanks for that one.
Yeah, I was going to mention too, we also use Adobe Suite. So, I mean, we have Illustrator, we have Photoshop. So, if you really have to get detailed and, those are still great products. If you have them already, you're lucky. So.
Yeah, those are the industry standards. They, but, they're not super easy to use.
Right.
I mean, they have so many features, which is really great if that's what you need to do. But if that's not your day job, some of these other applications.
It's my day job.
All right.
I use it a lot. Nobody else does, I guess.
I have both, and I use Snagit many times more than I use the other products.
Well, just to grab some quick, it's great. I do, Snagit.
Alter it.
Yep. So anybody have any other ideas?
All right, well, moving on. We have we're a registration company. We do registration for conferences and events, and now all the conferences and events are Zoom meetings or, online virtual meetings, not necessarily Zoom. So we found some clever little hacks that can help out with registering people for online virtual meetings. Christina, what do you got for us? You are the registration nerd.
Thank you. I did want to stop real quickly and ask Amy Tran. She's asking for a hack for meeting scheduling, like across different time zones. And I was curious what, was it add to calendar or like trying to schedule meetings? if you're up for talking on this. Yeah, Corbin?
I do have a suggestion for scheduling across many time zones. I do a fair amount of international stuff, and so if you're doing in different continents, it's called World Time Buddy. It's a free tool you can add on, any place, and it will tell you, compare across those different time zones what optimal ones will be. So I find that one to be really helpful.
Thanks, Corbin.
Thanks, Corbin. I knew Corbin would have an answer to that.
Right.
Thank you so much. So talking about registration platforms, which is my day job, right? One of our top things is when you think about, and anybody in the meetings industry, at some point you're going to have to deal with a reg platform and possibly build something. And of course, when you're trying to build registration, you definitely want to, it's all about efficiency, especially these days. How fast can you do something? And every platform I've ever worked in has some way to do merge fields, which we're all used to as far as like first name, last name, customizing things like that. But take it, you can also take it a step for beyond that and include things like event name, start and end date, time, all sorts of basic information. So if you use those fields, those merge fields, anytime there's some sort of update, it will update everywhere you put that those merge fields in. So if you think about how often does something change in your event, like maybe the time changes or the contact changes, and instead of having to worry about everywhere that information is, if you've used merge fields, then you update it one place and it is correct everywhere. It's also really helpful if you've got something that you are maybe you're doing repeating, make a template, maybe you've got a series of events and got to create a new site quickly for each one. If you've used append fields or merge fields, whatever the program is that you're using, whatever they call that, then it's real quick to copy and it'll just automatically update that information. So huge time saver. And I think a lot of people don't think about it beyond like merging first name and last name, like customization, like personalized messaging, that there's a lot you can do beyond that.
Great. Do you want to talk, this isn't on the schedule, but it kind of reminded me, do you want to talk about like why you might need a more advanced registration system for a meeting like this versus just using the Zoom registration?
Of course. Yeah, so Zoom and a lot of the other virtual kind of platforms or virtual conferencing have built-in registration. So there's pretty simple, like I want to include registration, and it's definitely fast and easy to set up. And if you're doing like kind of a one-off thing, it's there and the functionality is fine. But it's limited branding, limited other information. And also you don't get like the ability to have maybe a microsite that goes along with it to provide more information or reoccurring data. And you're not really necessarily creating an experience. So something that's one-off might be fine, but like, for instance, for us, even though this is a Zoom one, this is a series for us. It's promotional. We want to do virtual brunch with actual nerds. It's something we have ongoing. So, we're kind of trying to create an event and a feeling and experience. So we've got a site that we're bringing people to, and then we're sending registration through one of the registration platforms we use versus Zoom, so we can kind of compile that information, build on it, connect with people afterwards. It just gives us a whole lot of other functionality.
Thank you. So if there's no further questions about registration, we can move on to, wait, what is it? maybe some on-site stuff. What is gonna, like, when we start meeting on site again, what are some clever tricks that we have thought of to, minimize contact, make people feel comfortable in the new environment? I see a good one with no name on it. It just says runner badge pickup.
That was me. This one actually goes for before, but also it has a lot of possibilities now, kind of when we move forward. And just the idea that when somebody's coming up to the desk, especially kind of post COVID, the way we see it is that you're still connecting with people, but you're still having to check them in, and you have to do it kind of in a limited way. And so the runner badge pickup idea is really just that maybe you're checking someone in, and you also have a runner that is grabbing whatever badges, collateral, anything that is needed to it, while the other person's checking the attendee in, so that you're kind of saving that efficiency. It seems like it's going to take more people, but it actually checks people in a lot faster that way. And it's a better experience for the attendee. And I think we'll probably have to be thinking about that some too when we, when we go back to meeting. How to limit contact, but have efficiency, especially if people are like 6 feet apart. Like, how long is that line? So there's a lot of things to think about there. Something else I'd seen that's not on this list, I don't even know if this is a hack, but when we talk about post-COVID, is possibly like scheduling registration pickup. So like giving people like time slots that they will come by and pick their badges up, so that you can kind of spread that over time, and kind of limit the number of people that are coming to the desk at one time.
Yeah, and one thing we're seeing a lot right now that Jeff may be talking about. Go for it.
I don't know. I was just jumping in because it just seems like old school, like the way we used to do it back in the olden days, right, Lynn Tyrus?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was getting at. Is we're seeing more fulfillment. Go ahead.
Yeah, we got groups like mailing out the badges and hoping that people remember to bring them. So that's a thing that's coming back. One other thing, we were just talking the other day with a client who is still planning their July meeting in Orlando, and they had self check-in with touch screens, and so the attendees would come up and type in on the touchscreen their name and say, yeah, that's me, and it would print the badge. Well, we're not going to be doing that. So we'll still use the touchscreen, but we'll have disposable styli. Everybody gets their own stylus that is then thrown away. So we'll have a disposable stylus, or that's a possibility. And also the badge, as it prints out, instead of us picking it up and handing it to them, it will probably fall into a place where the attendee can pick up the badge as it prints and eliminate, some of that person-to-person contact. So a lot of changes coming that way. And that's not even getting into, once you get into the meal service and everything else, that's just registration. It's going to change a lot.
Yeah, it's almost like a hybrid meeting. I feel like is going to be very important going forward, because some people just aren't going to want to travel to it. But hybrid badge printing, you're going to want to send it out, but you're also going to want to have a solution that's on site and quick. Before, like way back when, before on-site badge printing was popular, we would mail out some badges or have them pre-printed, and then we'd have to have reprints because either the name was misspelled or the badges got lost. So there's going to be, the old school of mailing them out and having them all pre-printed to avoid contact, but there's also going to be the new school of this is on demand, it's quick, it's fast, but also contactless. this note says, use check-in programs and include helpful info to prompt reg desk support. I'm not sure who wrote that on our notes or what that even means. So if you wrote that, either say something or tell me to move on really quick. All right. Nobody wrote that. Okay, so we're gonna move on to just some more generalized app hacks. This first one's really cool. It's called Sidecar. A lot of us find ourselves working at home in not the ideal office environment. Sidecar is a native Apple program that allows you to use an iPad for a second monitor. I know some people in our office have started using it.
Yeah, I have 3 monitors. I absolutely adore them.
Yeah, so when you get used to 2 monitors or 3, going down to 1 is pretty brutal. So yeah, Sidecar is a pretty nice thing. They added pretty recently, actually. So if you hadn't heard of it, it's pretty new for Apple. Text expander. Jill, what is that? Is it something that helps you unmute?
Sometimes my space bar does not unmute me. Text expander is just that. So you enter some characters and it expands it into a word, a phrase, a paragraph, a page.
Is it like a standalone application, or is it something that integrates into like an email?
It integrates into, well, it's web-based. So it integrates into anything on like a web form or your email. If you're using a web email, you can add it to your phone and do that. So for me, I have very few compared to some, but let's say I have 10 little cheat codes. And so if I wanted to type out my full address, which the name of my street is very long and it's boring to type, all I type is a little semicolon, and ADD for address. That's my secret code for address. And it just whoosh, types out the rest of it. Or I can type out a whole paragraph and all I have to do is enter 2 or 3 characters. But I use it many times a day. And
That's cool. I know you've told us about that, but I never even looked into it, but maybe I will. That sounds pretty
like
cool now that.
Yeah, I've built one yesterday that's for my work with Site Texas. I have a really long signature, including a graphic. So I built a snippet for text expander, and now I just type in my code and it puts in my entire signature for me with the graphic.
That's pretty cool. You have the next 2 on this list as well, Woven and takeout.google.com.
And Jeff has his hand up.
Yeah,
Wow,
I was just gonna add what I mean. It sort of made me think what Jill was talking about, but just speaking to those sort of fill in the blank kind of hacks is that I just fallen in love with all the little AI, the little artificial intelligence apps that Google and others have started plugging into their system, so that you start typing and it guesses what you were going to say, and so it's just right. I mean, it's just like, oh, that's exactly right, and you just hit tab and it accepts it, and you just keep typing and off you go, and it's like it's showing up on the phone, on the computer, and everywhere. I just have fallen in love with that, and also with little programs like Grammarly that that sort of checks as you go and says, oh, did you really mean this? And you just go click and it goes beep, and so you actually look smarter than you really are.
So if you found a way, Jeff, if you start something and it types like the first half of is right, but the last half, have you found any way to go in the middle and just add the last half?
Yeah, you can actually like insert and click into and it'll pick up on some of it, and you can type over the rest of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's
It's on mine.
That's cool.
predictive text. Jill, text expander is more like a preloaded text, so something you write all the time.
Right. It just reminded me of it.
Yeah. So quickly, Jill, do you want to talk about woven and takeout before we get into our
Yeah, I did talk about
closing?
this earlier. Woven is the one that lets you send out a link to people and they can pick times on your calendar based
Okay.
on preset.
And then
I
I
also
think,
use Calendly, which
Yeah, and
does the same
Calendly.
thing.
yeah, Calendly does a good job of that too. And one of the things that sort of goes back to Amy's question about, cross time zone scheduling is that if you're both on the same platform, if you both have Woven, for instance, and you're trying to work out dates with somebody, it will show, sort of basically both calendars side by side using the time zones of the subjects.
If you're both in
I-
jail or
Yeah, I'll also add on the time zone thing as someone who regularly interacts with people in different time zones as well. Like, I always put central after any time that I'm talking about, and if I'm talking to a client that I know is in a different time zone, I put my time in parentheses after their time, just so there's just like absolutely no confusion, and it is great. It really works well.
Thanks, Bragan.
I need an
So-
app that checks the date versus the day. Because I sent an email out to a bunch of people today. It was like, Friday is not June 25th. Thursday, June 25th, but not Friday. I need Grammarly to fix that for me.
Pretty good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, how hard
Um,
could it be, right?
yeah, I mean, I think I make that mistake once a week. Anyway, I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. We're running up against an hour, so we're gonna wrap it up unless there's any further questions.
Or any hacks that we need to know about we didn't bring up?
So we also are trying to implement a little after, I guess you could call it an after show, maybe. We're going to call it Words with Nerds. And if you just want to have a little one-on-one conversation with any one of us, please let us know. Email us at nerds@attendingnet.com. Sign up for it during the registration process. And one of the other things that we want to get out of Words with Nerds is if you want to give just a quick, 5-minute addition to what we're talking about today. We're trying to get some just quick snippets that we can help push out to help people with some hacks or some whatever our topic was last week. So just let us know what you guys want to hear about. Let's see, moving on. Remember, next week, no, 2 weeks from now, we will have Mike Dominguez. Raise your hand if you have not heard of him. Exactly, he's great. I've seen him speak several times. He'll be joining us. Let's see, I think that's just about it. So thank you guys for joining us today. It's been fun. And we'll see you in a
Did
couple weeks.
anybody want to hang around and word with a nerd?
Yeah, I've set up one breakout with Michelle Edison.
Oh, good.
But put it in chat if you'd like to speak with someone. We can do that.
Or you can stay here for that matter.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for
Thanks, everybody. Thanks. I appreciate the time.
Hey, appreciate
Thank you,
your-
Appreciate it,
Corbin.
Corbin. Thanks for being
bet.
here.
Okay, take care.
John, thanks for the Yeti hack.
hot water in the Yeti cup.
Yeti is just my hack period. Like,
I know. Seriously.
Oh, and I know it's wasteful, but you take like a cup of hot water, let it sit in there for a few minutes before you dump your coffee in. Obviously, it's going to raise, that way you're not putting the coffee in a room temperature thing, which is going to pull it down. So
pull down. Yep.
it's very wasteful.
Brilliant.
It's
Yeah,
very,
No, you
it's
just
very
go and
wasteful.
you let the water cool down, and then you put it on one of your plants.
I was going
Well,
to
On
say
the
the same
contrary,
thing.
if you're going camping for like a few days, if you get
Yeah.
an ice block and put it in your Yeti cooler,
Yeah.
to just let the whole insulation get cold. It stays colder
And
for a day.
I've got cups across the spectrum, whether it be Arctic, Yeti, and all that. I don't think there's any difference. Is that? I mean, the ones at Walmart work just as well as the other ones. Or unless somebody else,
And a lot cheaper.
a lot cheaper.
My no-name Yeti cup that I use every day.
So, but neither here nor there.
But I was going to say, John, that's kind
Hey,
of.
I do have one question unrelated to hacks. So, what's I was looking to get a secondary web camera
Yep.
versus that. I mean, I know you guys got the little ball of death speakers, but what's a good web camera? I mean, because there's prices on Amazon anywhere from 20 to 100 or something like that.
You can actually use a DSLR camera if you have one sitting around, and you can use your own iPhone. But
Don't have either. I'm an Android guy.
I also feel like
you can.
I've heard just like anything, any external mic or any external video camera is like better than what's in your computer, which I was a little bit surprised to hear, because I mean, I think mine are pretty good. At least
one
the
that
video
I see recommended a lot is the Logitech Brio.
920.
And the 920 is really popular. The Brio is a little bit more expensive. But the thing is, it's like, this is not going to change very much for the next many months. And so putting 100 or two into a camera is not a bad investment.
Well, and they were in short supply, along with green screens.
Yeah.